Hey YouTube, it's your boy Widgie here, coming up with some more Age of Mythology Retold. And in today, we're going to be looking at the good and the bad so far in Age of Mythology Retold's journey. So at the release of this video, the multiplayer stress test will have just finished. Before that, we had the closed beta. So we're going to first be talking about the changes that the developers have made between the closed beta and the stress test that we've just had. So covering these first, we can clearly see that some of the big changes have already happened. UI scaling was such a big thing that I mentioned on the forums as well. Cluttered the screen up quite a bit. You can now reduce that down to 70%. We also have a nice legacy layout option where we can have the resources next to our minimap rather than at the top. And also there's the accessibility options as well when you first start up the game. So when you start up the game, you don't have that narrator or that text-to-speech constantly talking to you and you're trying to find out how to shut it down. Oh my God. Help. We already have those options available to you when you first load up the game. Now, beyond that, there are some other changes that they've been doing in the background. I'm not going to go through absolutely all of them, but it's clear that the developers are already working on some stuff, which is great to see. So now let's discuss the good and the bad between the stress test that we've just had and all the way to full release, which is going to be at the end of September, start of October. So the bad bits, let's get into those first. All right, ladies and gents, the first one for me are the default hotkeys. I've got to say it. Here's just a snapshot of some of them where I just don't understand how this makes sense. Like maybe you guys can let me know down in the comments below, but I think that Retold should really just adopt as close as they can to Age of Empires 4. Age of Empires 4 in how you either garrison, eject units, attack move. Hotkeys like this, the building of hotkeys is absolutely fine. I haven't got an issue with the grid layout when you have to build buildings and stuff like that. It's absolutely fine. However, stuff like this, we have return to work. Normally that's, I believe it's G or F if you use Age of Empires 4. But here it's like Alt-C, Alt-X. Like using the Alt key in this manner is so strange for your hand because you either have to use your thumb and mess around like that, or you have to move your hand entirely. It just doesn't make sense to me, some of these hotkeys. And one of the big ones, of course, is the attack move. So attack move being spacebar. So that is the biggest one for me. It's just a strange one, and I don't know why it is spacebar. It just needs to be A, and they need to try and make it work, you know, because they make it work in Age of Empires 4 because they break down the different buildings from basic to advanced and then to other. You click Q and then you click another letter to build that building. For example, if it was a house, it might be QQ, so you hit it twice. It works really well. And I don't know how much of an effort it would be for the team to be able to implement something like that. But currently, some of these default hotkeys don't make sense. Maybe there's some easy workarounds, and of course, let me know down in the comments below if there are some easy workarounds for this kind of stuff. But these are one of the things that I just doesn't really make a great deal of sense to me. Okay, another current issue that's a little bit annoying, and I'm sure this is something that can be easily addressed when the game is released, but when you hit ranked, every time you start the game up, you have to always perform a fresh benchmark. I understand why they have this benchmark in place, but for some reason, like for me, I think it should only really be applicable to ranked. If you want to host a game and you want to play with friends and stuff like that, I don't think there should be a requirement for you to have to meet a certain score on your benchmark. And I'm hoping that once you've done the benchmark, you don't then have to do it again. I understand if you maybe change some graphical options, it asks you to do it again, fair enough, but not every time do you actually start the game up. Another issue that I think is going to take a little bit of time, and the devs have mentioned it in the latest stress test, is pathing issues with villagers, with gatherers. So the main issue here is currently with the Norse, with the ox carts. We can clearly see that the ox carts still move around when villagers are gathering. They essentially push the ox cart around. So what they need to do is make the ox cart an immovable object when it's not moving. It needs to be treated as a building so that the villagers will walk around the ox cart rather than pushing it around and then disrupting where the ox cart needs to sit. Another one is simply just with like Greeks with normal gods where you have to build the buildings, the gather rate buildings, the drop-off buildings. And we can clearly see that villagers are still struggling to move between the resource area and the actual building itself. So there's still some pathing issues to be dealt with, and those things are going to take time. It's something that really took a lot of time on Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition, and still there are some issues on that game. So I'm hoping that this can be addressed and sorted in the near future. And of course, another one really frustrating for me as a content creator is the spectator mode at the moment, or the observer mode when you're trying to observe live games. I cannot for the life of me get this to work. Normally what happens, first 10 seconds in, it just slowly gets worse, and then eventually it will just stop. It will freeze, the game will not be able to do anything, and then you simply have to just quit the game and reload. Now, some people have no issues with this. They're able to cast games, they have no problem, but it seems to be, depending on maybe your graphics card or your driver that you currently have, seems to be causing the issue. We have that issue, and we also have currently the FPS problems that people are still having on the game, and also there's the D32 error that people get sometimes when they're actually playing a game. In the middle of it, it will just shut down and there will be a driver fault and the game will have to essentially close and it will crash. So I am experiencing a lot with that, and it makes it so frustrating for me because I want to do content, I want to enjoy the game, I want to stream it, but even streaming for me is such a problem with this game. I've had OBS crash multiple times for me as well. I don't know whether I'm just unlucky. I've done all the checks that I need to do. I've got my driver updated to its best position that it can be in. I have a NVIDIA 3070 Ti, and I just still get some problems. The performance of the game has been a lot better for me compared to the closed beta, so the stress test has been a lot better for me, but still I'm getting those issues and I just really don't know why. Now, before we get into the good bits, I could talk about the balance changes that need to happen. Some things need to be addressed with certain pantheons and stuff like that. Of course, I can talk about that forever, but in this video, it's more about the key fundamental things that need to be addressed quickly before looking at more of the competitive scene and whether or not maybe one god is ridiculously strong compared to all other gods. So I just wanted to make that clear before we get into the good stuff. Let's do it. The first clear good point about this game is the sheer beauty of it, how it looks. It looks vibrant, great contrast, just a fantastic look overall. Nice smooth edges on all the buildings. We have a weathering system on the buildings as well as time progresses when you're playing the game. These little things really make a difference, and people really pick it up and they absolutely appreciate it. I know there are still some people that might say that, oh, it doesn't look particularly good. It sort of looks like Age of Empires 3. You've got to bear in mind that it's running off the same engine as Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition, but I've got to say, it looks a lot better than that. It just looks absolutely fantastic. And of course, if you have the means to be able to play it on the quality, then of course that's great. I mentioned in one of my bad points around performance issues and also just the optimization of the game might need a little bit of work, but it's clear that it is a beautiful looking game and they've done a great job on the artwork as well. Now, I said I wasn't going to talk about any balancing issues, but I've got to say, just from this release alone and also on the stress test as well, I'm not noticing any ridiculous imbalances. Of course, there's a few things. I think personally with the Greeks, you're able to get access to Hercules, for example, an incredibly strong hero in the Second Age. It makes it incredibly difficult to try and push on Greeks, and also their harassing power and pressure in Age 2 is extremely good because of that hero unit. You also have elements with the Egyptians as well and their economy, but I think overall it's not bad, which is kind of crazy. You got to think of all these variables. The team want to really change and shake up a lot of the bonuses that the pantheons have as well. They've completely shaken up all of that from the previous game. On top of that, they've introduced new units, new content into those pantheons as well. So it's all those things combined. On top of that, trying to make sure everything is relatively balanced, I think they've done a fantastic job. There's still things to be addressed, of course, but nowhere compared to Age of Empires 3 Definitive Edition when that released. This is looking a lot better, which is fantastic news. Now let's talk a bit about the campaign, the voice acting. Thank the gods that the voice acting wasn't as bad when the initial preview came out way before the closed beta. Thankfully, they had just placeholder voice acting in there.
Shame Agamemnon if we sent one of your junior officers. He already complains that we do not pay enough attention to the Greek colonies.
Here we go.
No.
Strap yourselves in. Oh no, it sounds so weird. No, it's always the great pause that no, it must be you. The new revamped voice acting is pretty good, I must say. I do miss some of the classic Arkantos ways of speaking, but they have kind of made it more Greek. You can get that Greek kind of accent, so it's a little bit more accurate, which I quite like. And they've done a good job overall with the voice acting on there and the visuals as well from the campaign. From the first 5 missions that I played on stream, it was absolutely amazing. They've done a fantastic job on the campaign, and I hope that the rest of the missions and all of the other content from both the Egyptians and the Norse as well, and the Atlanteans, is going to be really, really good. And one more final point from me before we wrap up this video is for content creators alike, they have already got implemented a decent observable mode when you're spectating either replays or live games. This is fantastic, and the reason that it is it encourages content creators like myself to get into casting, to raise the awareness of the game, and also it's not just from a self-promoting aspect of the game as well, but it really tries to drive that competitive scene for the game. I think it's very important for both the Retold community and also for Microsoft that we have another decent competitive game within the Age of Empires franchise. And I think by putting that observer mode in, it really is encouraging people to be able to cast, to be able to show awareness of the best players at the moment in the game, the metas that are going on, and just to really get that whole competitive scene whirring. So that is going to be my final good point. There's many, many other ones. I'm sure you guys can think about them. Let me know down in the comments below if there's any major ones that I've missed. But we're looking pretty good, I think. I think probably the next step, they might do another stress test, or they might move to an open beta where they invite even more players in, and hopefully we will have access to the Egyptians. We didn't have access to them on the stress test, but we did get access to the Atlanteans, and it was great to see them being played as well. So guys, we're going to wrap this video up here. Let me know what you think, and of course I will catch you in the next video or the next stream. All right guys, I'll catch you later. Bye.